What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and how many of you are like me and this poor young lady sitting there with an empty Poke Wallet? And that is because the Pokemon Company International has been absolutely throttling us with products over the last 7 months. We've had Scarlet and Violet, we've had Paldea Evolved, we've had Obsidian Flames, a little thing called Pokemon 151, Pokemon TCG Classic, and all of the other products that come along with it, plus all the Sword and Shield products that's still out there in the wild right now. And then what do we have on next week? A new one called Paradox Rift. And I'm about to tell you something that won't come as any surprise to people on this channel because y'all play chess where everybody else plays checkers. But guess what? You don't have to love every product that the Pokemon Company drops. You don't have to love it. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to invest in it. Like, none of that matters. You should always buy and collect what you believe in and what you love and what makes you happy in this hobby. I feel like there's this mentality that the next set is always the best set, and that just doesn't track. It doesn't make sense at all. So I'm not a big fan of Paradox Rift. Now, I will say I am buying some. Now, if you've been following this channel at all, you know exactly what I'm buying. On the very last slide, I'm going to tell you what it is, but I am certainly not taking any kind of big position in it just because it doesn't excite me. Now, the purpose of this channel isn't just to tell you the what, it's also to tell you the why. I believe you spend 80% of your time on the why and 20% of the time on the what. So I'm going to walk you through exactly why I'm not a big fan of Paradox Rift right now. Now, capital resources are always limited, right? Like, I don't care if you got $1 million or $10, you still have a finite amount of money that you can put into your Poke collection. And whenever you choose to buy one thing, that means you chose not to buy a series of other things. Now, I'm not a big believer in looking in the rearview mirror with regret. I think I look in the rearview mirror because I want to learn. If I make a bad trade, I want to learn from that. If I make a good trade, I want to learn from that. That's why this channel is so data-driven. But you have to understand, whenever you spend money, there's an opportunity cost. If you have pre-ordered a case of Paradox Rift ETBs, if you pre-ordered a case of Paradox Rift booster boxes, guess what? That's money that you could have spent somewhere else. Doesn't mean it's good, doesn't mean it's bad. It's just the fact of the matter, right? And I will say this too, Poke assets appreciate or depreciate based on supply and demand. And as I talked about earlier, I feel like there has been a crazy amount of supply as of yet. I will say that there's also a crazy amount of demand. I feel like the Poke market is in a fantastic space. I think the market is really, really strong. I think the hobby is really strong. There's a ton of people that are interested. But at the end of the day, the Pokemon Company can absolutely outproduce demand. And I'm not saying that's what's happening right now, but when we look at some of the more recent sealed products later on in this video, you're going to see some trends, which is exactly why I'm not jumping into Paradox Rift right now. The other thing that I'll say, and this ties into the opportunity cost earlier, the overall market is softening. It doesn't matter if you're looking at Scarlet and Violet. It doesn't matter if you're looking at Sword and Shield. It doesn't matter if you're looking at Sun and Moon. Like, we're seeing a lot of big chase cards. The Moonbeyond's a great example of it. A lot of big chase cards, a lot of booster boxes, a lot of ETBs are starting to come down in price, right? So what do you want to do? Do you want to spend your money on an ultra modern Paradox Rift ETB or booster box? Or do you want to look at some of these other cards that maybe you couldn't afford a couple months ago, but they're now starting to come within your sights because the prices are dropping? So with that being said, I always like to look at how previous sets in different eras have performed, and that's what we're doing right here. So you'll see I have Sun and Moon and I have Sword and Shield, and we're looking at the first 4 sets from each of those eras. So the MSRP for booster boxes for both of these eras was $143.64. Right now you can get most Scarlet and Violet booster boxes for under $100. So for this exercise, I just went ahead and said, let's assume that we bought all of these booster boxes at $100 each. I pulled the current booster box price yesterday. That's under the current line. And then there's the months, because age matters, right? You're going to compare different sets. You have to understand that one has had a lot more time to grow and one has had a lot less time to grow. So you have the old price, the $100 that we bought it for. You have the current price. Then you have how old it is, and you use that to calculate a rate of return. So that's just basically looking at Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon went from $100 to $230. So it's up $130 over 80 months, which gives you an annualized rate of return of 13.3%. Again, we use this that way we can compare sets of different ages to give us a similar number that we can look at. Now, what you will see here is that these sets, they've performed pretty similarly, okay? So you look at Sun and Moon, it's up 13.3% for a rate of return. Guardian Rising at 22, Burning Shadows at 24. Then you get Crimson Invasion, right? Crimson Invasion is the number 4 set that came out in the Sun and Moon era, and that has a rate of return of 13.61%, right? So that ranks number 3 out of 4. Then you get to the Sword and Shield era, right? Sword and Shield has performed better than any of these four. The Sword and Shield base is up 35% with the rate of return is 35%. Then you get Rebel Clash, which has a rate of return of 22.5%. Darkness Ablaze is at 7.84%. And Vivid Voltage, the number 4 set, you would actually be down $1. If 35 months ago you bought a booster box of Vivid Voltage for $100, you will have actually lost $1 over the last 35 months, which is absolutely crazy. Now I know there are different factors that play into this. Vivid Voltage was printed through the roof. You know, a lot of these Sun and Moon sets, they went through the pandemic pump. So it's not always a 1-for-1. And I always say this, the past doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly does rhyme. So it's always important to look at this type of things. Now, I did this exact same exercise before Obsidian Flames came out. And I said, is Obsidian Flames going to be more like Burning Shadows because that Charizard was absolutely awesome, which is why Burning Shadows has performed really well? Or is it going to be more like Darkness Ablaze where the Charizard, there's something like 30,000, not 30,000, like 20,000 PSA 10s of that Charizard, which means, hey, there's not a lot of value in it. Now, I will say this before I get to the next slide. We do fun stuff like this in deep data dives all the time. So if you made it this far and this gets you excited, we have an amazing community. I'd love it if you hit that subscribe button. Questions or comments, drop them down below. And if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Those 3 small things go a long way in helping my channel out. Lets me know you appreciate the work that I put in. So with that being said, let's start looking at some of these other sets now that we know that the number 4 set in each of the last 2 eras really hasn't performed that great compared to its peers. So then we're going to look at this. I told you we're going to look at some of these ultra modern booster boxes. So Scarlet and Violet, Paldea Evolved, Obsidian Flames. Now what's interesting thing to me to look at here is they are all sub $100. Obsidian Flames was fighting for a long time to stay over $100, but it's sub 100. So what does that tell me? That tells me I'm in no rush to go out and buy Paradox Rift booster boxes because in 6, 8, maybe 12 months, who knows what's going to happen in the market. I feel very confident that I will be able to get that in the $100 or even less than $100 range further down the road. I want to use my money right now to spend it on some things that I have a better opportunity of price appreciation in the future. Maybe you're thinking some Sword and Shield booster boxes, right? Like Sword and Shields is way in the rearview mirror at this point, but you can still get Lost Origin, Brilliant Stars, Astral Radiance. You can get some of these great booster boxes, you know, in the $120, $130 range. So is that a better spend on your money when you feel very confidently that you'll be able to get some of these Scarlet and Violet booster boxes sub 100 6 months from now? Now, the other thing I wanted to look at too were the singles cards. So Iron Valiant and Roaring Moon, listen, love the cards. They're absolutely beautiful. They're absolutely stunners. From a playability perspective, I think that they're going to have some really strong prices right out the gate. But in the long run, do you think these 2 cards are going to be, you know, $100, $150 cards? I just don't. In 3 years, I don't think these are going to be that high. So I wanted to compare them to the highest non-Charizard, non-full art trainer card that has come out in the Scarlet and Violet era, and that's that Magikarp card right now. And I will tell you, the Magikarp card performed very differently than what we're used to seeing, right? We're used to seeing singles come out, they're super high pre-release, the set comes out, everybody rips them, the price comes down, and they stay down for a while, 6, 8, 10 months before they start to pop back up. Well, what happened with this Magikarp was it was starting off pre-sale at like $70, and then guess what? It dropped down to $45, but it's been slowly climbing over time. You know how much I love this card. It's a beautiful piece of artwork. I love the Paldea Evolved set in general, but I think this card has a little bit more star power than Iron Valiant and Roaring Moon, so it'll be interesting to see how these 2 start off. Now, both of these are pre-launch in about $90, $80 range on eBay. I checked the most recent sold this morning. So they're selling for a pretty good price, but I don't know how long they're going to be able to handle that, right? Like, I mean, think about the Gardevoir card, right? From the Scarlet and Violet base set. That was selling north of $100, and now it's a $20 card. I don't see these performing any differently, especially since that Gardevoir is such a playable card in the TCG space. So then we always know that full art trainers have the ability to just grab a set and kind of pull it up by its bootstraps. Like the Iono's not even on here because it's performing so fundamentally different. It's not even a fair comparison, right? Super popular character, super playable card, awesome artwork. Like that card is just in a league of its own, so I didn't even put it on here. But I do have the Miriam from Scarlet and Violet base, and I do have the Gita from the Obsidian Flames. Now, the interesting thing to me was that Miriam pre-launch was over $200, selling for a ridiculous amount of money, and then as true Pokemon pop and flop flash fashion, it is all the way down to 35 bucks right now. Now, long term, I still think in the $30 range, this is going to be a great card, but it certainly hasn't buoyed the set as Scarlet and Violet booster boxes are now going for like $85, $90 a box, so it's not enough to keep the booster box price high. And then that Gita right there, we were talking about this in the Discord. It is amazing to me that that's a $5 card. Now, I will say this, pre-launch, that was going for about $70, but that's what Parasol Lady's going for right now. Now, we don't officially know what the big Chase trainer is going to be. I feel like it's going to be Parasol Lady, but it's going for about the same price that Gita was pre-launch, and Gita has dropped down to $5. Now, I think the art's better on Parasol Lady. I don't think it's going to drop down to $5, but I also don't know if it's going to have that kind of wherewithal to hold the setup and do what Iono's doing and just absolutely kind of pound her chest and get up there and be in the very top echelon. So I've talked about the ability to buy booster boxes at a reasonable price for a long period of time. I've talked about the single cards and how they're not super exciting to me and how I think that there's going to be opportunities to buy them in the future. So you might be asking yourself, okay, Ryan, you told me you were buying something. What are you buying? Well, guess what? As no surprise to anybody, I am completely and totally all in on these Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs being the best single source of long-term price appreciation in the ultra-modern Pokemon set. They come out, they sell out, and they have not come back in stock. We've seen some Scarlet and Violet ones pop up here and there. I've heard 151 has come up for like 10 minutes and then disappeared. Even all the way back to Crown Zenith. Ever since the Crown Zenith Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box came out, they have been nowhere to be found. So when you look at how these, remember, these have an MSRP of $60, and that's it. That's what you get from the Pokemon Center, $59.99. The Scarlet and Violet base set one, even though the booster box is down low below any other Scarlet and Violet era booster box, this is going for $94 for a price appreciation of $34 in such a short amount of time. Then you get the Paldea Evolved version right there, up $22, and then you got the Obsidian Flames version there, up $18. So yes, I have 2 cases of each variant coming in. I've got 2 of the red, 2 of the green, and I'm really, really excited. As always on this channel, I'm gonna go ahead and open up one of each because guess what? I'm trying to build a PC. I want all PSA 10s of these Pokemon Center stamped promos. I think in the long run, that's gonna be a great buy and hold. And I also enjoy opening products with my kids, and I enjoy sharing that moment with you, so we're gonna be doing that here on this channel. So listen, hey, if you like what you saw, give us a thumbs up. Questions or comments, drop them down below. And if you enjoy this type of content and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, it means a ton to me when you do that, and I'd love to have you as a member of our community. So you guys have an epic one. I appreciate you. See you, everybody.